Vinyl siding is manufactured with identical factory laps on both ends of the panel. This allows overlaps going right to left or from left to right. Laps should face away from the point of greatest traffic. When measuring and cutting siding, always allow a 1/4 inch gap where siding meets corner posts and J-channel. Increase this distance to 3/8 of an inch when installing siding in temperatures less than 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4.4 degrees Celsius. Start installing siding on the lowest wall. Lock the first panel into the starter strip and slide it into the corner post. Make sure the panels are fully locked along the length of the bottom, but do not force them up tight when fastening. Next, nail the siding a maximum of every 16 inches directly into the framing stud or furring unless the manufacturer's instructions provide different fastening methods. Remember, always nail in the center of the slot and do not nail tight. Leave about a 1/32 of an inch gap between the fastener head and the siding. When siding is nailed properly, you will be able to move each panel side to side. It's a good idea to check that the panels can move. Every 5 or 6 courses, or rows of panels, check for alignment as you proceed up the wall. Make sure the panels are lining up around both inside and outside corner posts. Both ends of panels have a factory notch for lapping. When panels overlap, make sure they overlap 1/2 of the notch at the end of the panel, or about 1 inch. When lapping back siding, slide the panels together until the backing of the 2 panels touch. As you go up the wall, stagger the laps so that no 2 laps are aligned vertically unless separated by 3 courses. When you reach the end of a course, you have to cut the panels to fit the wall. Measure the required length, keeping in mind the 1 inch overlap and the 1/4 inch required for the corner post. Avoid using panels shorter than 24 inches. Mark a square line and cut the panel with tin snips or with a circular saw. A fine-toothed plywood blade installed in reverse direction or a vinyl siding blade can be used to ensure a smoother cut. As you progress up the wall, you must work around fixtures on the wall. Use a commercially available fixture mount to fit the siding around fixtures and other penetrations, following the manufacturer's instructions. Most fixtures are removable, and most manufacturers have 2-part systems that can be used. Attach the mount base. As with the window opening, install flashing around the mounts to allow for water drainage. After siding has been installed around the base, the fixture mount cover can then be snapped into place. If a fixture mount is not available, end a panel at the fixture. Cut an opening at the end of both panels 1/4 inch larger than the fixture. Overlap the panels as previously described at the fixture. You could also use a split mount in this case. If you are installing back siding, you might need to build out the fixture to achieve the desired appearance. As the installation progresses up the wall, you will eventually have a course intersect with the bottom of a window. For appearance reasons, you should always plan so that a single piece of siding extends past both ends of the window. Hold the panel under the window and mark the width of the opening. Make sure to allow 1/4 inch clearance of the panel for the J-channel. Take measurements on both sides of the opening to determine the height to cut out of the panel. Cut the panel with tin snips. Use the snap lock punch to place tabs in the cut edge of the panel. Make sure the tabs point outward. Install utility trim or double utility trim into the J-channel on the bottom of the window. The utility trim might need to be shimmed in some situations to maintain the face of the panel at the desired angle. While locking into the lower course, slip the panel around the window and into the utility trim. The same cutting technique is used for panels around the top of a window. When a side wall extends past a roof line, run the siding until the last full course is under the roof section. Cut a diverter from the aluminum trim sheet. The diverter will slip behind the J-channel that is over the roof line and on top of the nail hem of the last course of siding on the sidewall. Then cut the panel and install. Fasten the panel close to the roofline at the far end of the nail hem slot to ensure that the siding will expand away from the J-channel. An alternative to a diverter is a kickout flashing. A kickout flashing can be created from trim coil. The kickout flashing must be placed underneath the last piece of step flashing in a manner that diverts water into the gutter. You will also have to modify the last course of panels at the top of each wall. Measure the required width for this last piece in several locations at the top of the wall. Make sure to subtract 1/4 inch for panel movement. Using these measurements, cut the panel to the desired height. Next, install J-channel. Using the snap lock punch, make tabs in the cut edge of the panel every 6 inches. Utility trim should be installed into the J-channel at the top of the wall. Install the panel, making sure it locks into the previous course while firmly snapping into the utility trim. This panel, like all others, should be able to move from side to side. You might have to shim the last piece, or use a double utility trim to maintain the proper angle for the face of the panel. For gables like the one shown on this test wall, make sure a water-resistive barrier has been installed. When installing siding panels into a gable, make a pattern for cutting the angles. Lock a short piece of siding into the last full course of panels. Hold a second piece against the J-channel. Now mark the angle onto the first piece of siding. Cut this angle and use it as a pattern for all cuts in the gable area, making angle adjustments as needed. The last piece in the gable must be face nailed with a long color-matched trim nail, except for this instance you should not be face nailing. To transition from horizontal to vertical siding, finish the last course of horizontal siding with J-channel and finish trim or double utility trim. Then install rigid head flashing and J-channel, leaving a small space between the trim and J-channel. The top piece of J-channel must have a minimum of 3/16 of an inch diameter weep holes drilled no more than 24 inches apart to allow for water runoff.